Welcome to FCNYC. My name is Benson and I'm here with Dominic, Mauro, and we are going to start by recapping UFC 150, which featured a rematch between Benson Henderson and Frankie Edgar. We'll get to that fight later on. First, let's talk about Yushin Okami and Buddy Roberts, who was actually kind of a buddy to Yushin Okami by, I guess, letting him wail away on him.
Yeah, no, I just let him hang out and punch him in the face a bunch of times. Real great buddy, that buddy.
A very leisurely fight for Okami.
It was. I mean, when this fight was announced, everyone knew that Okami was gonna, clean the floors with Buddy Roberts. Well, everybody knew who Yushin Okami was, and nobody knew who Buddy Roberts was. So that was kind of, a little bit of a disparity.
He's got quite a neck.
He does have a very long neck. That's unfortunate when you're going against a big, strong wrestler. But no guillotine attempts, no triangle attempts. That was interesting. But, so Okami didn't really blow the doors off of Buddy Roberts like I thought he would. Roberts, he was pretty game. He hung in there. I think he knew that Okami's kind of a slow starter. He came out swinging pretty early to try to, catch Okami off guard. But, Okami weathered it. I don't think he really ever got hurt. He knows how to back up away from punches. He's a very, cautious fighter, especially when he's starting slow like that. But then Okami just started dragging the fight to the ground. He was very persistent. He outmuscled Roberts. And then he just, he worked to mount and just pounded the guy. I mean, the fight would have been stopped in the first if not for Roberts being saved by the bell. But Okami gets on top of him with like 3 minutes to go in the second, and Roberts just doesn't have any answer on the ground for Okami.
Maybe his strategy was to let Okami pound himself till he was tired.
The Homer Simpson strategy. Well,
unfortunately, the ref was not into this, I guess, and even though Roberts didn't seem that hurt.
Well, that's the thing. Like, Okami's ground and pound wasn't that effective, but he definitely, kept Roberts from getting up. Roberts didn't really defend himself intelligently. He was covering up pretty well, but that's not in and of itself an intelligent defense, and the ref really didn't have much of a choice but to stop the fight. And, Okami wins his first tune-up fight after his two-fight losing streak, but, he's got to look a lot better than that against the kind of competition he's going to fight, working his way back up for a title shot.
Mm-hmm. And then in the next fight, we had Jake Shields beating Ed Herman, who did what you thought he wasn't going to do.
Yeah, I don't really understand what Ed Herman's game plan was here, but here's a secret. Jake Shields is a terrible striker. If you have a chance to punch and then run away from Jake Shields, do that. Ed Herman somehow decides to clinch with Jake Shields. I mean, Jake Shields is, either Jake Shields or Damian Maia is the best grappler that Ed Herman has ever faced. They're two of the best in the UFC, frankly. And Ed Herman decides to clinch with Jake Shields? I don't really understand the thought process that goes into that, but Jake Shields drags Ed Herman to the ground and just works tirelessly for the submission for 15 minutes. Ed Herman's, he's got a good grappling game. He's got a good submission defense. He didn't get submitted. I don't think he was ever really in danger. Jake Shields really wanted that arm triangle, but I don't think he was ever really close to submitting Herman. And Herman, for his part, just sort of, took the loss. I mean,
he kind of just fought. He didn't really fight to win.
No, he fought not to get submitted by Jake Shields, and he accomplished that. But I think that there's a third option here. You can, try to beat Jake Shields on the feet, where Jake Shields comes at you like Hoist Gracie used to, I mean, really, the weird, completely ineffective striking game of Jake Shields. I don't really see why Ed Herman wouldn't exploit that.
Maybe it was the Denver altitude that Rogan was talking about all night.
Altitude.
The altitude. That was the word of the night.
Rogan knows high things. Rogan knows high things completely. Denver is a high thing.
And the next fight was the fight of the night, yes. Which lasted all of 76 seconds. We had Donald Cerrone knocking out Melvin Guillard.
Yeah, in 76 seconds, way more action in this fight than in the 3 rounds of Shields and Herman. Really crazy back and forth. Guillard, he comes out swinging to start the fight, and Cerrone gave him no respect on the feet. And that almost cost him the fight, because Cerrone got clocked. Guillard swarms after him. Guillard's usually an excellent finisher, but Cerrone covered up pretty well. He moved his feet. He tried to create some distance. And crucially, he talked about it in the post-fight interview, but crucially, he avoided that flying knee that Guillard always throws when he knows he's got a guy in trouble. And Cerrone weathered the early storm, and after about 60 seconds, cobwebs had cleared maybe a little bit. And Cerrone lands this head kick to Guillard, and it just wobbles Guillard, and he topples over after this beautiful straight right hand from Cerrone. So crazy back and forth action in just about a minute of one round.
Yeah. there goes a man who knows the altitude.
Yeah, Cerrone clearly prepared for the altitude, and that's why he wasn't knocked out. He clearly had prepared diligently. So for Guillard, you know, you hate to see the guy get really, really close to title shots time and again. He really works his way up through the division, and then, you know, a single mistake. Joe Lozon, you know, catches him with a jab. Donald Cerrone catches him with a kick. And, you know, for me making fun of Guillard's chin before the fight, actually this is the first stoppage he's had in 44 fights. He's never lost to strikes. So, you know, that's a hell of a streak to have end, but Cerrone, you know, continues on his tear through the 155-pound division. We'll probably see him in a title shot pretty soon here. Okay,
and then in the main event of the night, we had Benson Henderson defeating Frankie Edgar in their second fight. Again, a very close decision. Henderson did it by kicking the crap out of Frankie Edgar's calves.
Yeah, calf work is really underrated and underreported in mixed martial arts.
But thanks to Joe Rogan, we know.
Yeah, Joe Rogan and the Very High Things in Denver really had that on lockdown. I mean, they had the calf cam, they had it queued up on Frankie Edgar's calf. I mean, really, I know way more about Frankie Edgar's calves than I did, you know, this time last week. You know, poor Frankie Edgar, I really don't feel like he got beat in this fight or in his last fight against Benson Henderson. He doesn't really get beat. I mean, he just runs out of rounds that he can outpoint a guy by being faster and having crisper striking. And that being said, he got beat in this fight because he, you know, he was the smaller man. He didn't land as many effective shots. When I was watching the fight, I thought Henderson was outlanding Edgar, but it turns out, according to Fight Metric, Edgar actually landed 2 or 3 more punches than
yeah, I actually
Henderson
favored Edgar in this fight because I thought that after the first round that was dominated by Henderson, Frankie took the second round.
Oh, yeah.
And then through the last 3 rounds, I thought he was landing the more effective counter blows.
Yeah, no, Frankie Edgar, I mean, as the fight went on into those later rounds, definitely, Frankie Edgar was landing those counter shots, catching Henderson coming in, and towards the end of the 5th round, Henderson was looking downright dispirited. I mean, I don't think he really understood how to get inside on Frankie Edgar, how to, like, move forward on Frankie Edgar, because, you know, Henderson would step into range, and Edgar would leap into his range and land that quick right hand, and then back right back out. I mean, it was the BJ Penn fight all over again, but I guess for the judges, it was too little too late. You know, the 2 judges scored at 48-47 for Henderson. Tony Weeks, a boxing judge in what was largely a striking match, actually scored the fight 49-46 for Edgar, though. So, as far as striking exchanges go, the judge who knows striking the best gave that fight to Edgar handily. So he agreed with you that the first round was Henderson, and the other 4 were all Edgar.
Yeah, I mean, you almost want to see them do it again, and I'm sure they will, but definitely. Now they move on to UFC on Fox 5, where Benson Henderson has a date with Nate Diaz.
Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic fight. I mean, these guys, you know, Nate Diaz, since he moved back down to lightweight, he's on a 3-0 tear. I mean, he just walked through Jim Miller in a fight that, honestly, I thought Miller was favored to win, but Nate Diaz just walked right through him, this guy who can't be finished, and finished him in 2 rounds. I mean, it was astonishing. So Nate Diaz is on an absolute tear, and Benson Henderson is not going to be, you know, he's not going to be the more aggressive fighter against Nate Diaz. I mean, the Diaz brothers, they do one thing, they do it well, volume punches, they move forward, they swarm you, they wear you down, and then, of course, you know, you get to the fight to the ground, and they're like crazy black belt octopuses. I mean, there's just, you know, there's arms coming at you all over the place. So, you know, Benson Henderson's really going to have to switch up his style. I think his footwork's going to come in handy, because the Diaz's don't necessarily cut off the cage terribly well, but that's going to be a really exciting lightweight match, and it's free. The championship match is free on Fox, maybe December-ish. We're not really sure yet.
Right, and also on tap for that night, we have BJ Penn coming out of retirement to fight Rory McDonald. I don't remember his last opponent, but I do remember GSP working his corner and working his trunks to make sure that his boys were cool.
Oh yeah, you got to keep those boys cool.
And this seems like a really interesting fighter for BJ Penn to take as the first fight coming out of retirement.
Yeah, you'd really like to see BJ get some sort of tune-up fights. You know, BJ's always fought hilariously tough competition. He loves fighting. I mean, he fought Lyoto Machida at one point. Like, just, you know, because he could. He's BJ Penn. So, but that being said, you'd really like to see BJ take a warm-up match, because
maybe he just doesn't want to do the extra training camp.
Well, seriously, I mean, it's hard enough to get BJ to do 1 training camp. Can you imagine him doing 2?
Right.
Like, no, he's really. I think what this is, you know, like you said, GSP corners and trains with Rory McDonald, and I think this is sort of BJ's way of getting some small victory over GSP and or his camp, because, you know, GSP has dominated BJ Penn in their 2 fights to date. He's really, not got an awful lot to brag about. This is one of the few things that BJ Penn, really lacks in his legacy, is any sort of success against French-Canadian men. And I think, BJ sees, oh, well, this is GSP light. He's younger, he's not as big, he's not as experienced. I can handle GSP light. But GSP Light's still really good. He's got those crazy serial killer eyes. Like, have you seen him in the cage, BJ? I mean, I know you, BJ Penn, used to do that crazy thing where you'd, like, lick blood off of your gloves after the matches, but, you haven't done that in a while. You kind of looked, flat and flabby in your last couple of fights at lightweight, and now you're fighting at 170. I mean, you didn't exactly look great against Diaz, so, I don't really know what BJ Penn's thinking, but best of luck to him. We'll break down that fight, of course, in more thorough detail when it gets closer. But that's good. If that's also on the Fox card, that's going to be a fantastic card.
And then wrapping up the Fox card, there will also be Shogun, who will be back in action versus Alexander Gustafsson.
Yeah, the Swedish prospect who is one of 2 guys who has yet to fight. 2 guys in the top 10 of the light heavyweight division, who haven't fought and been destroyed by John Jones. You've got Phil Davis and Alexander Gustafsson. Neither guy really ready to make that leap up to the championship caliber. And Shogun's going to sort of test the water, see if Gustafsson is really ready to fight against the top tier level of guys. Because the only other fight Gustafsson's had against top 10 competition was against Phil Davis, and Phil Davis manhandled Gustafsson so badly on the ground that they named a new submission after it. I mean, it's called the Mr. Wonderful. Like, there's really only a few ways in life to get something named after yourself. Have a really weird disease that nobody knows. You're the first one to get it. Order a sandwich a bunch of times, or submit a Swedish dude, apparently. And Alexander Gustafsson was that Swedish dude. I mean, that's terrible. And so Shogun's probably not going to twist Gustafsson up into pretzels. Shogun doesn't go for a lot of those, he doesn't overpower guys on the ground the way that Phil Davis can, but Shogun's got a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I really think that Gustafsson's ground game is going to be what determines this fight, or maybe Shogun just decides to go out there with no cardio and just have another huge slugfest that kills off the other half of Shogun's brain cells. So either way, that'll be a fun fight, and we'll find out a lot about Gustafsson and where he stands in the light heavyweight rankings.
Okay, so that's going to be sometime in December, UFC on Fox 5. The next card is going to be John Jones back in action in September.
Yes, against Dan Henderson, the big right hand.
Until then, thanks for watching, and tune in soon.